Hi Validum graduates and students, my name's Kristy Noble and I'm the owner and director of Noble Properties Brisbane. So I haven't always been in real estate. I used to be a makeup artist actually back in the UK. We moved out here, myself and my husband, about 20 years ago. And I got into real estate by working in an office, in a place office actually, in admin and reception. Saw a lot of the buzz around what was happening in the office and got a real sort of keen interest. And that started my interest for me personally getting into the real estate world. So I've been in real estate since 2008, roughly. Sold hundreds of houses. I actually don't keep track. It's one of those things that it's more about not a transactional sort of thing for me. It's more about relationship building. And over the years, you know, I've sold properties multiple times for the same clients. I was motivated to be a real estate agent, I think because, well, there was a few reasons actually. Flexibility was one of them. Every day is very different in real estate. You're meeting different people, you're going to see different houses, the days go super quick, but you can do as well as you like, really. You can make as much money, as little money as you like, you can have work-life balance, it's just a case of managing it, and I saw all those things, and I guess that was pretty tempting compared to the average career or job. My first year in real estate was pretty awful year. I don't want to sort of put anybody off there, but it was tough, and I think you've got to have something about you with regards to dedication and your attitude when it comes to getting into real estate, because you can't just get in there and make it. You can certainly have a very good successful year, it's just you have to take a lot of knockbacks, you have to make a lot of calls. My first year in real estate, properly into real estate and into the area that I'm working, was a hell of a lot of door knocking. I would, at the end of the day, sit and just make call after call after call for a couple of hours, and after every single call I would go around and drive to every one of those properties of people that I've spoken to with a handwritten note to say thank you, it was really nice to talk to you, hope we can be in contact later, let me know if you need anything. A very casual note. But that was after every single call. So sometimes I wouldn't get home until 8, 9 o'clock, and I had two small boys. So on the family situation was pretty tough, and it feels like you're not sort of getting anywhere, and it does take a long time for that trust to build. But it's worth it now, but it is pretty tough, or it can be. My least favourite thing about being an agent, I can tell you what that is straight away, and it's, I get in my head, and I still do, even after all these years. You can't just switch off sometimes. You've got a lot going around in your head, especially if you're client focused and you're thinking about that client, whether it be the buyer, the seller, or both, or the deal coming together, or how you're going to negotiate this one. You know, sometimes you can actually continue that into the evening or the weekend, which I'm still learning. I'm getting better. It is a learning process after all these years, but that's probably the worst thing about being a real estate agent. Okay, what is my superpower? I don't really believe I've got a superpower. I think probably what makes me feel like I stand out a little bit in the crowd is just me, just being genuine. You know, unfortunately, real estate can bring out the good and the bad in some agents, and there is a lot of fakeness, which we're trying to sort of get over that, and things are getting better. Your real estate agents don't have to be like that, and I think that was probably one of the biggest things, getting sort of people to understand that, you know, you don't have to be like that to secure a listing or to negotiate a deal. So for me, it's just being real and being how I would want somebody to be with me, an honest, genuine person. Okay, so I work in around the south side of Brisbane. Typically you can't really buy a property sort of certainly under $1 million. 1.5 around those mid ones is typically probably a sweet spot at the moment. But that doesn't mean I only specialise in those properties. You know, I can sell units, I can sell townhouses, I can sell multi-million-dollar properties on the river. I think a person is a person. You can communicate and you can work with whoever. And I think I guess one thing in real estate is you have to adapt to different people's personalities with regards to their expectations, if they've sold before, if they're an investor, all those sorts of things. But my speciality isn't really in one type of property. I'm open to selling many, but I guess the sweet spot is probably around those $1.5 million properties. So real estate has definitely evolved over the years. I think as a real estate agent 10, 20 years ago, you may have just continued without much sort of new education, learning about what the updates are, what the market's doing and that sort of thing. Things are very different now. If you want to be a successful real estate agent, you really do have to keep on top of trends. You have to keep, read reports. You have to be ahead of that a lot of the time, not just sort of seeing what the news articles are sort of coming up with, because half the time that's 3 months later than what you're actually seeing in the market or what the reports are actually stating. So I tend to keep on top of various things, different reports, but also training within what's happening in the real estate world, what the changes are with interest rates, inflation, all those sorts of things, what the markets are doing overseas. You have to really keep on top of all those things if you want to sort of put your knowledge over to a client and gain the respect and confidence from that client that you're going to get them the best sort of price. If you want your property to stand out in today's market, you really need to invest, and that involves in things such as digital marketing, obviously your realestate.com and domain. You need to have your premier ads, but also social media is huge. Social media has certainly taken over newspaper advertising over the last few years. I'm not saying don't do the newspaper advertising, but social media definitely for bang for your buck, it goes a lot further. You've got to be able to make sure you're working with the right social media teams. That's really important, and you've got to be able to ensure that it's boosted or an ad has been sent to the right people, it's been retargeted. All of those sorts of things are very, very important, because otherwise, the numbers through open homes, the people that you're negotiating with, the competition is obviously going to be a lot lower. Databases are obviously huge, but I think social media is probably your biggest, as well as the digital advertising. Okay, it's interesting when you go to visit a client, as many owners of property, they've got an idea generally of what they think their property is worth. Often an owner's opinion of a price or a value of their property is higher than certainly what a buyer may think it's worth. So education with regards to that is really important. We need to find out why the client sort of came up with that figure. It's, it may be a correct assumption of the price, and that's fine, but I think it's important to be able to show where prices come from. And obviously we can look at previous sold prices, and we can look at actual research. I think it's important for owners to either drive around and look at properties, or go through open homes maybe before they even go to market. See not only what kind of property they want to buy, because a lot of owners concentrate on those properties, but also go through the properties that are not comparable, because there's not really many comparable properties for places around here locally, but more sort of relative, what you can buy for $2 million if you think your property is worth $2 million, and see how that compares to your property, so that they're educated on that before you even get going. So negotiations are probably one of my favourite parts of this job. It's really great to get a deal together and make the owner's dreams come true, and obviously get a buyer into their dream home too, whether it be a dream home, whether it be an investment property or a first home. I think the trick is to sort of come to that buyer and seller's level as a human being, and find out the reasons why people are selling, the reasons why a buyer wants to buy a home. What are the reasons they want to get into that property, and does this property tick the boxes for the buyer? A buyer may have a property that they're comparing as a comparable as to why they want to come in lower. It's figuring out, okay, is it actually a comparable? It might be a sort of similar price, but what are the negative aspects of that property, and how does this property stand out? It's looking at past sales, but it's also, the idea is you want to sort of create a higher price and set records, I suppose, for that owner. So I think the biggest thing for me is trust, and it's just, again, being real. And if you as an agent have been real with that buyer all the way throughout, from meeting them at the open home, or maybe even before that, talking to them on the phone, and they can sense that you're genuine and you're telling them not just what they want to hear, but being there for them, answering questions quickly for them, coming back to them with answers from the owners, then when it gets to the negotiation part and getting the deal together, they're going to trust you more when you're actually telling them they need to pay more. When I first sort of not got into real estate, but started to really get established in an area, it was tricky, because a lot of agents have been in the area for a while, and a lot of agents came across as ruthless. I don't describe myself as ruthless. I like to give people time to think. That takes a while though, and I think if you're sort of just getting into the real estate world, it's good to know that trust takes a while. The people in certain suburbs, or most suburbs, will want to see that you've been there a while, you've achieved great prices, and that you're honest and genuine. And I think for me the biggest sort of challenge, and I know we're not talking about challenges, but was actually showing that you don't have to be ruthless. You don't have to constantly ring someone, are you selling yet? Are you selling yet? You don't have to be be tough, a tough person. You can just be a real person, tell the truth. And I think that's probably, I suppose, what sets me apart. It did take a while to get there, but now a lot of my business is referral based. And that's a testament to, I suppose, how sort of I've kept to that sort of, those rules, I suppose, throughout my whole career. And that's what I took into Noble Properties when I opened the company, was moving from McGrath. Great company, didn't have any issues, but just showing that I can be me and I can represent that with the brand. How do I handle conflict and difficult situations? Look, it's hard. I guess you learn, and you learn from every situation. You know, I don't always deal with it well. Sometimes it might take me a little bit longer to sort of get over, but it's more just about sort of realizing why clients are doing certain things, why they're selling, why a buyer's looking, what are the reasons that a buyer wants to buy a property, and what are the reasons for their sort of excuses to why they won't pay that money. Is it a genuine excuse? And then just explaining what the market is doing right now and what it looks like it might do. And it depends what the conflict is, but handling it's just about probably not taking things personally and just giving your best advice based on the knowledge you've got and you've acquired, as best and clearly and transparently as possible. Okay, so with regards to guiding a client, whether it be a buyer or a seller, through a certain process, I suppose it depends on the client and how much experience they've had in buying or selling before. A first home buyer may need a lot of guidance, you know, all the way through. An experienced investor obviously knows, they may have done it many, many times. So for me, it's about that tailored sort of package for that particular client and figuring out what they need, how much information they need, how often they need to be contacted. Sometimes they don't want to be called every day. Sometimes they don't want to be called, they want to be called once a week just to get an update. So it's really important for me to ask questions of that client. What do you need from me throughout the process? And it will be me that you're working with. I won't just be palming, you know, the workload off to somebody else, but just figuring out what it is that a client needs and then tailoring it to them throughout the whole process, right to the end, and then having that client for life. That client, I want to come back to me and I want them to refer me to all their friends and family. And that's a lot of what my business is, which is perfect. So as much as I've sort of given some struggles within the real estate world and talked about the realities of how it can be, I wouldn't want to do anything else. And if you're looking at getting into a real estate career, I guess it's because of the reasons that most of the real estate agents are in this job. And it's one, for, you know, the money. You can earn as much, like I said before, or as little as you like. Flexibility is huge. You know, if you want to go off and pick your child up, you know, after school, that's no problem. You can make it work. There's so many advantages with regards to how you can sort of get that work-life balance. But it's the sort of job where, to me, and again, I've said this before, you're meeting new people. The days are different every day. It's not just the same thing, you know. So it's really interesting, and you're meeting new people, having really different experiences, and it's really rewarding to see the negotiation, make that deal come together, and that's probably, I think I've explained before as to what the best part of the job is, but thinking about it, that's a massive part as well, is just putting that sold sign up and seeing people's faces and seeing emotion, and actually that's probably the best part of my job. Technology is a massive part of the real estate industry, and it's certainly becoming more and more, especially as AI is getting more and more popular. All these things you can use. There's so many different systems that you can use. You know, we use Dropbox now to sign contracts. You know, AI is massive with ChatGPT, etc. These things are all amazing tools, and you can certainly use them. I use them. I think it's still really, really important to stay real and stay you. People want to deal with a human, and they want to see a human. You know, you can have ChatGPT make calls for you. I don't particularly like that idea, but you can help it, you know, help writing sort of your copy for your real estate ads and that sort of thing, just to speed things up a little bit. But there's definitely a lot of choice of what you can use out there. But I think the key thing as well is just to stay you, stay humble, stay real, and just add that into your processes. My goals moving forward are to continue with the work-life balance that's getting better, bring more people into the business. I've got a whole admin team and my PA Sadie, who's absolutely fantastic, and just probably promote the rental side of our business as well. We do have a property management team, which are absolutely fantastic. So it's probably just pushing those things a little bit more as we move into the next phase.